Today we will talk about a very different aspect of the Israel-Hamas war. Remember, across the world, people protesting against Israel's actions in Gaza against the Hamas have called it an apartheid state. They repeatedly speak of how it's a Jewish country at war with Arabs. But the reality could actually be very, very different. What a lot of people will not tell you is that 2 million of Israel's citizens are Arab. Many identify as Palestinian, live and work in Israel, and share very close family ties with those who are in the West Bank and Gaza. And what's even worse is that at least 20 of these Arab Israeli people were killed by the Hamas on the 7th of October. Of the 1,400 casualties that Israel has suffered, 20 are Israeli Arabs. The worst hit were citizens hailing from the Bedouin communities which are scattered across the south. Dozens died in rocket attacks or in Hamas shooting. One of them was Osama Abu Essa. He was working at the Nova Music Festival as a guard when he was abducted, stripped, tortured, and murdered. The Hamas actually filmed and released the propaganda footage of Osama's murder. Now, Osama's Bedouin family has offered a $1 million bounty for those who killed their brother. They've declared a blood feud against the Hamas and said that this terror outfit does not represent Arabs, even though it claims to speak for them. Unfortunately, Osama's family is not the only one. Israel has also now released chilling footage of how another Arab Israeli was beaten and then captured by the Hamas to act as a guide for the Nova festival. The Hamas can be seen in the video repeatedly beating the helpless man with the butt of a gun, asking him how to get to the Nova festival in Reem, and then stuff him into a car. The real face of how Hamas treats Muslims is out there for everyone to see. The point is, does the world care?
وقف هاتك وقف وقف تعال تعال اطلع برا اطلع برا بقول لك اطلع ارفع عليك ايدك فوق 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 ايدك فوق ايدك فوق اطلع برا 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 اطلع برا تعال اطلع برا تعال هاي كلب نطور ايش اسمك ايش اسمك ايش اسمك ايش اسمك رعيم رعيم انت بطلع رعيم حقتلك رعيم وين رعيم وين رعيم وين رعيم وين رعيم بقول لك وين رعيم اخر سؤال بقول لك وين رعيم لفرتك راسك ماش خاطر انت كسرك وين رعيم هي اطلع فكر فيا صبر شوي اقعد اقعد جوا اقعد اقعد تقعد خذ جوا من عرب باط ربطوه سعفانه سيارة مين هذه؟ سيارة مين هذه يا حيوان؟
So it's an important question to ask at this point. What really is the reality of the claims that Israel is an apartheid state? Can the Hamas really claim that they speak for Arabs, Israeli Arabs, or any Arabs at all? Joining us is somebody who's speaking out on Indian television for the first time. She's an Israeli Arab herself and a coach, Sophia Shramko. Thanks very much, Sophia, for speaking to us. What do you make of these claims? Is Israel discriminatory? Is it an apartheid state? What was your experience growing up, living there?
Yes, thank you for having me. The claims for apartheid could not be farther from the truth. As you said, an Israeli Arab Bedouin growing up in Israel. Bedouins are nomadic Arabs. They're about 4% of the Israeli population. In Israel, we have over 20% of the citizens of the population are Arab Muslims. They have equal rights like the Jewish citizens. We get welfare, education, healthcare, anything that a Jewish citizen would get. I can tell you that I grew up to a penniless and illiterate mom that doesn't know reading and writing because her parents didn't believe that women should get education or go to school. They should be on the field and herding the sheep. But when Israel was established, it forced all children to go to school, and it couldn't stand that there are girls who are not getting educated, like my mother. So they literally went to my grandparents' house and forced them to send the girls to school. And this is why my only two younger aunts know reading and writing. So if not Israel today, I probably would be illiterate, penniless, herding sheep somewhere in Galilee. but instead I have an electrical engineering degree from Tel Aviv University. I have master's degree from Stanford University, and I had the right to live my life the way that I wanted to live them. Israel also protect women's rights. I was the first ever Israeli Bedouin fashion model, and I got death threats from my uncle, and he obviously could not kill me because Israel protects women. If I was living today in an Arab country, I probably wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't be talking to you today. The opportunities that I got from Israel and the potential that I could fulfill in Israel is something that I couldn't even dream about growing up in any other Arab country. Israel is not an apartheid state. As I said, it provides the Arab citizens full rights as equal citizens. It's a very beautiful and strong multi-ethnic democracy. And you have Supreme Court judges who are Muslim Arabs. You have parliament members who are Arabs. You have even, we had even ministries who are Arabs. So this is something that could not be even farther from the truth. And we have even Muslim colonels and commanders in the Israeli Defense Forces. And this is nothing but farther from the truth.
You know, when in the larger narrative across the world, it is seen as Hamas in some way representing and standing for the Arabs. How do you react to that as an Arab yourself?
Hamas is not standing for the Arab. Hamas is not standing for the oppressed people of Palestine. They're not standing for the Gazans. In fact, they're killing the Gazan peoples. They're not allowing the Gazan citizens to move to safety, to leave the battle zone. They're using them as a human shield. They used all the monetary aid provided to Gaza, hundreds, millions of dollars for their own. They took it for their own. Look at Ismail Haniyeh. He's a billionaire. Look at Khaled Mashal, another leader of Hamas. He's a billionaire. They're in Qatar, sitting there safely. They used all the cement to build 500 kilometers of underground attack tunnels to be able to attack Israel and civilians of Israel, instead of going and building schools for education, universities for innovation, or maybe hospitals to take care for the health of their own people. They're using the fuel they're stealing the fuel from hospitals, instead of like operating the hospital, in order to go and operate their underground tunnels for ventilation and electricity for the attack tunnels. They're killing their own people. They're bombing their cars. They're shooting them. 2 days ago, Israeli tanks had to secure the humanitarian corridor that it opened so the people of Gaza could safely move to safety, leave the war zone, and not letting Hamas kill their own people. Israel went out of its own way, more than any other army in the history of warfare, to protect the civilians of the so-called enemy. And this war is not with the Palestinian people, it's with Hamas. Hamas is not a national movement. It's a religious movement that its all entire purpose, and you can read their charter, you can read their constitution. It's to transform the Middle East and the entire world into an Islamic state. They want to annihilate Israel, annihilate the Jewish people, and to build an Islamic state, radical Islamic state, killing everyone on their own way. And it will start with the Jews, but also Arabs, as you said.
You know, because you yourself are a Muslim, and then you see this group talking about a Muslim charter in the Middle East. How do you react to that?
I don't think this is Islam. Islam forbids the killing of women and children. If anyone read the Quran or the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, it forbids killing women and children. And what we saw on October 7th, it's something that is farther from the Islam that I learned about. They went from house to house and slaughtered family after family, killing the children in front of their parents and the parents in front of their children, torturing them in the most horrible ways before executing them, mass raping women in a peace party, killing people from a short range in that peace party, in that party that we're talking about. 260 young people got killed. The women got raped before they were executed or paraded to Gaza. We have 240 civilians held captive in Gaza. One of them is Abigail. She's a 3-year-old that saw her both parents getting murdered in front of her eyes. She's now alone in Gaza for 35 days, and we don't know how is her situation. Is she wounded? Is she afraid? We have a lot of horrible stories, and they don't let the Red Cross even get ask about like what's the situation of these people. This is a very horrible situation. And it's important to say they're not for the Palestinian people. They hijack the Palestinian cause for their own purpose, for their own radical purpose.
A lot of universities that I was looking at, there were students who were ripping off the missing children posters, and they said, "You're spreading Islamophobia." What would you say to those people whose biggest fear right now is that Israel talking about its people is going to fan Islamophobia?
As you said, over 60 Bedouins and Muslims got murdered, barbarically murdered by Hamas militants. One of them is even Palestinian civilian from East Jerusalem. He was crying to them, I'm a Palestinian, I'm from East Jerusalem. They killed him, they murdered him. We have Bedouin Arabs and entire families held hostage in Gaza. What kind of Islamophobia is this? Is what Hamas did is in the name of the Islam? And what these posters are saying, they're just only saying that these people are kidnapped by Hamas and we want them back, we want them home. This is not against Islam. This is for humanity. The crimes that happened is against humanity. And in universities, in the name of freedom of speech, we see people talking and promoting intifada. They're calling, and intifada is an armed violence or armed resistance. Intifada in Israel means that we had, like, I lived through the second intifada in Israel. I was 13 years old. We had suicide bombers bombing buses, shopping malls, restaurants, hotels every other day. And we see incitement calling for terror in these elite universities. And we see people calling to smash the Jews, calling from the river to the sea. And people need to understand, from the river to the sea, it means that you're destroying Israel and killing all the Jewish people who live in Israel, because Israel is literally from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea.
Including in American campuses where you studied.
Yes, in Stanford. I'm really fighting the anti-Semitism in Stanford campus, which is my alma mater. I met with the president of the university and the provost to try to explain to them what these calls are actually, what do they mean? They're calling for violence and terror and to attack and kill the Jews. This is what it means. And I'm very, very scared for the life of the Jewish and Israeli students on campus. We need to understand that terrorists are not being made in some dungeon in Afghanistan. I grew up in Israel. I went to a public Arabic school. We had one teacher who was, extreme Islam. And during the second intifada, when I was in my 8th grade, he used to glorify the attacks, the suicide bombers. He used to tell the students you should become a shaheed one day. And my best friend, my very best friend, a very nice girl like myself, she came to me one day and told me, I really wish to become a suicide bomber. This is how terrorists are being made. And a lot of these students came from a reality when they teach you from a very young age, as young as 5 or 4 years old, to hate the Jews, blaming the Jews for all the atrocities that are happening in the world, falsely claiming that the Jews stole the land. This is not the case. And then they come to Stanford, they see all this kind of propaganda of a terrorist group, the call for intifada and killing the Jews, and everything fires up in them. And it's very, very soon that you will have one student just taking action, and we have to stop this. This is not acceptable.
Absolutely.
I have Jewish students who run away from the Stanford campus, went to San Francisco because she was targeted by other groups. And they're using Islamophobia, in my opinion, to be able to recruit more Muslim students to falsely picture the situation as a religious fight. But this is not the case. The Jews are not against Islam. We pray to the same God. It's like a monotheistic religion. We have Muslims in Israel. I'm one of them. This is not the case.
These are such hard realities. It may not seem like the most fashionable thing to say, but it's coming from somebody who has a lived experience of what it is like to be an Arab in Israel. Perhaps the world should wake up to the hard facts of life. As always, thanks very much, Sophia Shramko, for speaking out and for speaking to us.